World of Warcraft Midnight is here, and after diving deep into the early access period and the official launch, I've got a lot to talk about. We're returning to Quel'Thalas, clashing with Xal'atath, and experiencing what feels like a massive shift in how World of Warcraft handles its world building, its storytelling, and its endgame progression. Today I'm going to give you my comprehensive first impressions of everything from the reimagined zones and the contentious story beats to the new Devourer Demon Hunter spec, the complexities of the new dungeons, and the state of player housing. Grab a drink, settle in, because we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's start right at the beginning, because honestly, the opening of Midnight is a bit of a shock to the system. You log in, and almost immediately, you are summoned by an actual prayer to help repel Xal'atath's invasion of the Elven Kingdom. And it drops you right into the middle of the action. On one hand, I appreciate skipping the slow buildup, but on the other hand, it feels surprisingly ham-fisted and contextless if you haven't been doing your homework. If you skipped the 5 or 6 pre-expansions cinematics Blizzard dropped online, you're going to feel completely disoriented. The ominous urgency is definitely there, especially with Xal'atath's massive void storm threatening to consume everything. Currently held back by what feels like a giant magical drain plug that could give way at any second. But you really have to seek out the lore outside the game to fully grasp Xal'atath as a villain right now. Once you get past that abrupt introduction though, the world itself is breathtaking. Riding into the reimagined capital of Silvermoon City is an unforgettable experience. The gleaming ivory spires towering above you, accompanied by this incredible new musical theme that weaves in motifs from classic Warcraft tracks, it genuinely fills you with awe. The level of detail here is arguably the highest we've ever seen for an in-game city in WoW. The interiors are incredibly evocative, seamlessly interconnecting in unexpected ways that practically beg you to explore them. Legacy areas like Murder Row have been expanded into massive subzones with their own ecosystems of activity. And if you play Alliance, you'll be pleasantly surprised only about a quarter of the city is off limits to us, which is a huge shift. However, Silvermoon isn't without its flaws. From a design standpoint, it is glaringly obvious that this city was built from the ground up for flying mounts. When you are navigating on the ground, the layout can actually feel quite alienating. There's a bit too much open space, making on-foot traversal feel like a chore. And I have to mention the performance. My frame rate in Silvermoon has been less than stellar. The sheer density of the architecture is clearly pushing the engine hard. Stepping outside the city walls, Eversong Woods has received a gorgeous glow up. It was already a beloved zone, but seeing it finally healed from the scars of Arthas invasion from Warcraft 3 and the Burning Crusade is fantastic. I spent hours just combing every corner for secrets and side quests before even thinking about moving on. Zul'Aman is another massive highlight. Getting to see so much of the Amani troll culture fleshed out and interacting with Zul'Jin's grandchildren adds so much rich texture to the world. But while the world building is top tier, the narrative pacing is a mixed bag. The brewing story about the dangers of fanaticism is interesting, but it hasn't completely hooked me yet. My biggest gripe so far has to be Eredor's journey. This was billed as a massive epic questline that would take us across all of Azeroth. In reality, it took me less than 2 hours to complete. It felt incredibly underwhelming, despite having a few neat callback moments for old school Warcraft 2 fans. On top of that, Turalyon feels like he's been completely reinvented. It seems like the writers gave him new, artificial flaws just to justify a character arc, and it comes off as a bit forced and lame. That said, the questing isn't all bad. In fact, it features one of the best role-playing moments we've had in modern WoW. At the end of the Eversong questline, you're actually given a choice on how to proceed. You have to deal with the Amani troll invasion, and you can choose to side with the militaristic approach of Lor'themar or the diplomatic approach of Eredor. Now, does this branch the overarching story in 2 completely different directions? No, it's still World of Warcraft. But it let me express my character's personality. My Elven Farstrider absolutely took the militant path, and the game rewarded that choice with triple the normal reputation for Silvermoon. Letting the heroes be complicated, flawed, and actually make choices is a huge step in the right direction for the RPG side of this MMO. But let's pivot to the gameplay and class changes. During the pre-patch, I leveled several classes, but in Midnight, I've been focusing heavily on my marksmanship hunter and the brand new demon hunter spec, the Devourer. Honestly, I'm not entirely sold on the Devourer just yet. Historically, demon hunters are kinetic melee monsters. The Devourer, however, is a mid-range DPS and feels heavily caster-coded. The mobility is definitely there, which is great, but baseline abilities like Consume just don't feel impactful enough. They lack that visceral, aggressive demon hunter identity. I almost wish Reap was the primary rotational button instead. It's an interesting playstyle, but it might need some animation tweaks to really sell the fantasy. As for marksmanship hunters, the thematic changes make sense. Aim shot is back to being a long cast nuke, but with talents like Streamline removed, the damage needs to feel significantly chunkier to be satisfying. We'll have to see how the level 90 Apex talent, which guarantees crits, changes the flow at max level. Now let's talk about the group content, because this is where Midnight is making some bold, controversial moves. The Delves, specifically Collegiate Calamity and the Shadow Enclave in Eversong, show a little bit of evolution from the War Within, but they still feel slightly underbaked. However, the 5-player dungeons are a completely different story. Blizzard has taken a massive step up in mechanical complexity for normal and heroic modes. Part of this is because they have outright banned many of the combat modding capabilities and heavy add-ons that hardcore players have relied on for years, opting instead to bake some of those telegraphs and warnings directly into the base UI. Fights and pickup groups are going to be rough for a while as people unlearn their add-on reliance. Take the Windrunner Spire dungeon, for example. Not only does it drop massive lore bombs about the first family of Xal'Atath, but it features a boss that feels meticulously designed to bully marksmanship hunters, forcing constant movement. But the standout so far is in Den of Nalarak in Zul'Aman. It is brilliantly designed. You have an open area where you literally race greedy predators for dwindling food supplies, allowing your group to forge your own route. Then there's a Howling Wind Gauntlet where the party has to huddle in small safe zones while fighting forward. Climax is an icy boss fight on a slippery floor, and the only way to mitigate the sliding is to bait the boss into throwing snowballs at you, creating crunchy patches of snow to stand on. It is incredibly creative. Furthermore, a lot of these harder bosses seem to heavily incentivize bringing an off-tank, which might make standard compositions like running 3 cloth DPS feel really awkward. Another massive pillar of Midnight is player housing. Yes, it launched back in December, but the expansion proper brings a ton of new decor that makes the initial offerings look like a test run. I've easily dumped 100 hours into housing alone. Creation tools are astonishingly powerful once you get the hang of them, and the community creations are already mind-blowing. It is a fantastic motivation to log in, but it is very clearly a version 1.0 system. The hotkeys to swap between editing and normal gameplay are clunky. Basic quality of life features are missing, like why can't I just copy and paste a chair if I have duplicates in my storage? The die system is also unnecessarily frustrating. Players can craft dies, which is great for the economy, but if you're previewing colors in your house, you have to memorize them, make a shopping list, fly all the way back to the city auction house, buy the paint, and fly back. It desperately needs a more streamlined, maybe built-in marketplace interface. Finally, we need to address the elephant in the room regarding the endgame loop right now. If your primary motivation in World of Warcraft is gear progression, you need to know that Midnight is heavily time-gated at launch. Raids, Mythic Plus, and even Bountiful devs are completely locked away until Season 1 officially launches on March 17th. That is a very long time to wait for the traditional gear treadmill to start. It does provide a nice relaxed window to enjoy the story, level alts, and play around with housing without feeling left behind. But if you're currently subscribed and you only care about the endgame grind, you might honestly want to hold off for a couple of weeks because you will hit a hard wall very quickly. Overall, my first 10 to 20 hours with World of Warcraft Midnight have been largely positive. Silvermoon and Eversong Woods are spectacular, the dungeon design is the most creative it's been in years, and player housing is an incredible time sink. If Blizzard can smooth out the narrative pacing, tune the new Devourer spec, and add some much needed quality of life updates to the housing UI, this could go down as one of the great expansions. But for now, we wait for Season 1 to see how the real endgame holds up. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Have you tried the Devourer Demon Hunter yet? Are you spending all your gold on housing dies? Sound off below, and I'll see you in Azeroth.